Hello and welcome back to Just Code It. Today we're going to be implementing the Pydantic model into our FastAPI application to create a blog API and then eventually a blog website. So if you are just coming to this video, I would go back and rewatch that video, but I'm going to run through it really quick. The Pydantic model that we're going to be using is going to have these base models for responses. We have user base, post base, and comment base. And then we have the request models for input validation, which is the user create, post create, and comment create. Then we have the response models that have relationships. Comments have authors, posts have user base, and then a list of comments. Then users have a list of posts and a list of comments, all set to empty list. So if we go back to the main.py file, we're going to import from the models. And from models, we're going to import user create, user base, user, post create, post, comment create, and then comment. Then we're going to create our FastAPI app, doing app equals FastAPI, give it a title, create a simple in-memory database that will eventually switch over to a SQL Alchemy database, and our root, which is just going to be some HTML, giving an outline, which you can see here. The app is already running. And at the very bottom, I'm just doing a debug run with if name equals main, import UVcorn run, reload to true, debug level, all that fun stuff. The first method that we're going to work on is this current user method. This is just a really simple authentication method that we're going to be using to fake authentication until we get around to that in later videos. We're just going to make sure that the database has the user ID. And then if it does, we're going to return the user. If it doesn't, we're going to return a not found, 404 not found. After completing that little helper function, we're going to then do our first endpoints, which are our user endpoints. The first user endpoint that we're going to create is a post endpoint at /users. This is going to create a user. A response model is going to be a base, or user base, basically the response data type. And then the status create user method has one input, user, which has the data type user create, which is from our Pydantic model. Here it is, which takes in username, email, full name, bio, and password. Here we're just going to create an ID, create the time. We're going to get the user ID and return new user. Now we're going to create just another one with the same endpoint, but for a get to get all the users. This is mostly just for debugging purposes. I don't think we'll really use this, except for we want to hide this in a production application. You don't want people just to be able to get all the users. For now, it helps with debugging. And let's go to the Swagger docs and reload. We have our get users, create user, and our get user doesn't take in any parameters, and it just returns a list of users. We can test these out right now by going to the documentation and just executing and execute again. This is just going to create a generic user. And as you can see, the user that we created is just the user that was in the string user at example.com, string, and then password. Then the full user output is right here. Now, if we get all the users, we can get the full user using the get method. And the nice thing about the get method, because of how we separated them, is it doesn't return the password. We're going to do a get user by ID. This is one that we'll actually keep around in the final application. You're going to have a input variable of the ID. If we go to the get user and we grab the ID from here, we can then query this when we finally do it. But we're going to take in that UID. And then if the UID is in the database, or if it's not in the database, we're going to return a 404. If it is in the database, we're going to return that user. You reload and go to try, paste in that user ID and execute. Oh, let's go back up and get all the users. Oh, we should create a user. Try execute. All right, this is our new user ID. And then if we go down here to get user by ID, paste in that ID and hit execute, we will return that user information. User has 0 posts, has 0 comments, created, updated, hasn't been updated. After our initial user endpoints, we're going to start creating our post endpoints, which are not the post like API post, but posting a blog post. The first one is going to be creating a blog post using the app post method or app post declarator. And it's going to be called create post. It's going to take in a user ID, a post, which is of the data type post create, and then current user of data type user base. And then it's going to check also that get current user as its default value. It's going to create a post ID. It's going to set the current time. It's going to construct that new post object. And then it's going to add that new post object to posts, post ID, new post. Then in the user section of our database, it's going to do user ID posts, and then it's going to append that new post to that user and return the new post. If we rerun that again, we see the post method in there. We're just going to continue on and also do all the posts. So here the path is app get posts. Its response model is going to be a list of posts. Method name is going to be get posts, and it's going to return a list of the database's posts from the post database. Here we just have it. We have no posts yet though. After getting all the posts, we're going to have one that gets the post by ID with a path parameter post ID of UUID type. Response model is a post. The method name is get posts. It takes in post ID. If post ID is not in post, then it will return a 404 not found. So basically, if there's no post by that ID, if it is in that, it will return from the database posts. It will return the post ID. That is it for all the posts. So now let's create a post. We're going to get the users. Oh, we have no users again. We're going to create a user, grab the user ID, then scroll down to the bottom where we have the create posts. We're going to try it out. We're going to give it the user ID, and then we're going to execute. And here's the response. We have the post ID, and then it has that nestled user into it. So it's connected. Now that we've created the post, let's print them all out. Let's create 2 posts actually. We'll just execute that again. Now we'll get all the posts. Here are all the posts. And then we can now grab the ID from one of these posts. So right here, and we can go to get post by ID, try it out, paste that ID, execute, and yep, we got that singular post by ID. As you can imagine, up next we have comments. First method we have for comments are creating a comment. The path for that is going to be post ID comment. The response model is going to be a comment. It is going to take in 3 parameters. It's going to take in the post ID, comment, and then current user, which uses get current user method that we created up above. After it gets all that information, the create comment method will then check if the post ID is not in the database. If it is not, it will return a 404 not found. Then it will create a comment ID, set the time of the comment, and then create a comment object with the ID, content created, updated, set to none, author ID, which comes from that current user ID, post ID, which is an input, and then the author, which is the current user, which is an object. We're going to then add that to the comments, post, and the user tables within our database. This is not how we're going to do it going forward. We're going to use SQL Alchemy to then create a relational database. And when we add this in, it will propagate. But for now, we're just using a JSON object. After creating the create comment post method. We're then going to create one that is a get, but get posts. This is going to have the path posts, post ID, comments. It's going to return a list of comments. The method name is going to be get post comments. It's going to take in a post ID. It's going to check to make sure the post database has a entry with the post ID. If it does not have a entry with the post ID, it will return a 404. If it does, it's going to return the list of comments for that post ID from the database. I'm going to zoom out of this because we're going to have to run around in here a little bit. To see this all in action, we're going to create a user. Let's try out create a user, execute, and then let's do another user just called Jack, execute again. Now, if we run down here and grab Jack's ID, we can then go create a post from Jack using his ID, execute, post 2, execute. Now let's see all the posts that we created. Let's try this out. So we have, I must have clicked that twice before creating post 2. So we have 3 posts by the user Jack. And let's then check out that post. Now let's check out the posts using the post ID, which we'll be using in our production application. As you can see, the comments are empty. Now, finally, we're going to create a comment. The comment is going to take in a post ID and the user ID, and then it's going to return comment 1, execute. I'm surprised that actually worked. It looks like we have the comment ID created, comment 1, author, post ID. Cool, looks like everything's working there. And then now let's get the comments for a post by ID. Let's create another comment. Comment 2, execute. Now using the post ID, which I believe it's this one, we're going to get all the comments. Oh, nope, not that one. It must be the other ID. Yep. So here are the 2 comments that we just created, comment 1 and comment 2, which have the author attached to them, the Jack, and then it has the comment, the created, comment ID, and then the post ID. That is it for connecting our Pydantic models to our FastAPI API. Next, we're going to then integrate SQL and SQLite database using SQL Alchemy and get rid of all this in-memory database and have it persist. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you next time.